Thank you. And I just want to get a thumbs up that our board member that is virtual can hear us. Is anyone in the back? I think our board member Bran is having a hard time seeing things and hearing things. Hopefully that's being worked on.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll go ahead with our mission statement. That can be read, please.
Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Thank you. And our vision statement.
Richmond Community Schools, a collaborative community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. And now we will have Bridget Hazel Baker, who will introduce our celebration as our guest this evening.
Aloha. At tonight's board meeting, we are going to be celebrating two Hawkins girls. They recently received an award over at the Richmond Art Museum's film festival. So I'm going to have them come up and introduce themselves here in a second. Well, thank you, ladies. Come on. So I sent the video to you guys earlier in a link, so you were able to view that and see that for us. It's a 3-minute video, but I'm just going to go ahead and ask you. So, what made you guys get involved into the? Well, tell us a little bit about the competition. What got you started? Tell your name.
My name is Emily Hawkins, and this is Maya Hawkins, my sister. If you're gonna tell from the last name. So what got us involved in the competition, I had made this music video for an assignment for my class, radio TV. And my teacher was just like, "This is really good. You should put it in something." So I was looking around, and there were flyers for the Fanoscope Film Festival at the Art Museum. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool! I should do that." And then it got accepted, and that was so cool.
And then, what award did you guys receive?
We received the Audience Choice Award.
Okay. Yeah. And then, what was the festival like? I mean, how many schools would you say were there? How many students were competing?
There are several schools.
Yes, so Lance Crow is also here. More than what?
More than 200 films were submitted.
Okay, more than 200 films were submitted. And was this your first time doing a film like this?
A year before this, when I made this one, I had made a music video, for the lower level class, and but I didn't really do anything with it. It was just for fun. So,
and how did you get your friends incorporated into this video? Did you have to bribe them, or your sister? Even your sister. How did you?
Well, she helped me write it. So, I was just like, "Hey, you want to be in it?" And she was just like, "Yeah, sure." And a bunch of the people from band, like marching band, a lot of my friends are in there, and they like to perform anyway. So they were just like, "Yeah, sure, we'll help you." Yeah.
And then what came up with the storyline? How did you guys come together with the storyline?
So this starts with Maya and I in her bedroom doing homework, and we were listening to songs on her playlist, and that one came up, and I was just like, "This has a pretty cool storyline." So I started writing something up for it, based on the lyrics of the song, and kind of going off of that, and then it just came into a whole big picture. It makes sense.
And now you're going to be a senior next year. Yes. And are you going to continue on with radio TV classes?
I believe so.
Good. And then what about you? What are you doing? What are your future plans? You just graduated?
Yes, I just graduated. I'm going to go into English education.
All right. Good. Now, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Tell the board anything else about your project? Are you going to try to do it again next year, the senior?
I'll try if I'm not too busy.
She has to like graduate. She has a big passion for this, and she wants to do big things with filmmaking.
Any other questions?
Question.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that you have other works that you've done. How many have you done? Like how many? No, not. I was gonna say Riptide was another one, so you've done at least two.
Oh, well, yeah, I meant like one other one that I had done.
Oh, okay.
So,
In addition to the one we're
yeah,
celebrating.
I only made 2 music videos. But I've like helped with the audio visual things at my church every Sunday. So that's yes. You go.
There you go. How did you start doing all this? I mean, how old were you? What grade do you think you started doing this?
I started during COVID when churches started using all of the cameras and stuff so that they could give the Sunday services to the people who were at home. So I thought it was cool, so I tried it and it was awesome. So I just kept doing it.
Well, I appreciate Mr. Crow coming from the Richmond Art Museum. And how often have you guys been doing this film festival?
This was the 16th year.
Wow.
Who did they have with them, Bridget?
Okay, who should bring with us today?
I think there's lots of smiling faces back
All the
there.
faces over there.
Sisters.
I just want to say I really enjoyed your creativity and I thought you did a really nice job. It was very powerful the way that you put the images with the song. I got a good vibe. I got the feeling and the tone of what you were conveying when I watched it. So congrats.
Thank you. All right, well, ladies, thank you for attending.
Want to take a photograph as well?
I do.
Yeah.
We had a picture of you. Thank you.
Give them a round of applause.
Sorry. Next is our public commentary. Bridget, do we have people who are speaking this evening? How about, I'm gonna read what I need to read first for public commentary, and then maybe you can read the name of the first person that will be coming.
Okay, can I do that from back there?
Yes.
How many people, Bridget?
9.
For those who wish to comment at this evening's board meeting, the maximum time to speak is 5 minutes. Please keep your comments fact-based and within the time permitted. Comments are not to be personally directed or abusive. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in policy 9130. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, but you will receive a personal follow-up email from the board president. Okay, Bridget, our first speaker this evening, please.
Our first speaker had to step out and previous doing. Yeah, exactly. Next I have is Renee. Sorry. And she's going to speak about trip.
Great. And if you could just state your full name and come up.
My name is Renee Kolak, and I work for the high school. And I wanted to give you guys an update on our trip to Puerto Rico, our fundraising. So we have been doing fundraising since a little bit before January, doing concession stands. We did chocolate sales. We sold cotton candy at the concession stands. We just had a car wash, and we've started to receive community donations, which you guys should be seeing soon. I have only received one, but I've got an email confirmation for a couple. And so in the winter time, which would be like the basketball season, we raised $5,923 through concessions, the cotton candy and chocolate. And then the spring and now the summertime, so that was like the baseball concessions. We have done $2,030, so total of $7,953. And we have received $1,000 in donations so far for the whole group. That came from Dot Foods 500 and Natco for 500. And then I had gotten an email from Blue Buffalo stating that they would like to donate $500 to a student who couldn't go. And I had to explain, like, unfortunately, like, if a student can't go, they need almost $4,000 to go, and 500 is amazing. So I talked to the other Spanish teachers, and we had decided that we would give it to 2 students who are almost going to be kicked off, because we have 2 students who are paying for it by themselves. They got summer jobs. They've been doing the concessions and fundraising. And so when I put that to Blue Buffalo and I said, thank you so much, this is what we're going to do with it. We're going to divide it between these 2 students. They responded back and are going to be giving an extra $500. So each of the students that were in danger of getting kicked off are getting $500 a piece. And so, again, we haven't received, the only check we've received in the mail so far is the NAPCO, but I thought you guys would want to know that that is coming so you can see it, that the community is very supportive. And then we have another car wash coming up this Saturday at Johnson's Chiropractic from 12 to 6 if y'all want to come out and get your cars washed. But some really amazing students. We do have 44 students total that are going and 4 parents. So 48 people in addition to 4 teachers. So I just wanted to tell you guys thank you for approving this trip. It's been really exciting. So, and then do I have time left? Okay. Sorry, I wanted to add, I saw the agenda item about CIS. I think that CIS does an amazing job. When I first moved here, I was recently divorced, single mom, 3 kids, like working at, I think I worked at the baking company when I first moved here before I was able to get into the schools. I didn't have a lot of money. And my first Christmas here was awful. Like, I had no idea how I was going to get my kids Christmas. And CIS like stepped in and helped me in a big way. Like, my kids were able to get Christmas my first year in Richmond because of CIS. And at the high school, I see daily like students who go there for support, for snacks. Like, it's a really needed service. So please just keep that in mind when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next I have John Michael.
My name is John Michael, and I have some serious concerns about the continued push for this DEI policy to be implemented into the Richmond community school system. I don't think it's a good idea. I'm against it, and I don't want to see this agenda getting a foothold in our community. And I wanted to let the board members know that I'm aware of a large base of support within our community that is supporting the board members that aren't for this policy. So I would encourage you to keep the positions you're in and not going forward with this DEI policy, because there are members in this community that appreciate your position with that. And I would encourage you to maintain that position through the course of these discussions that will be happening in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next I have is Nathan. All right. Daniel Stoltz. Chris Hodges. What's your name?
No, you got it. I'm Chris Monahan, pastor of Gateway Church from Webster, Indiana, and glad to be here. Good to see you guys. Thank you for all you do. I want to also reiterate my stance against the DEI policy that's being kind of pushed. What I've discovered is that our schools need to stay in their lane and focus on what we should be focusing on: math, science, English. And I believe that the DEI policy is a distraction from what schools ought to be doing. America spends the most money out of any other nation on their children for schooling, and we are barely mediocre. And I believe it's important that we stay in our lane, we do the best that we can, and we don't try to get involved in things that are actually going to distract from the real purpose of the school system. And as a pastor, I know there's a lot of undermining things that I've found within the DEI policy. Diversity is great, but diversity pushed too far disconnects us. We're called the United States for a reason. Also, inclusiveness and some of the ideas about equity that are being pushed. I believe in equality of opportunity for everyone. But when we push equality of outcome, that's the seeds of Marxism and the seeds of communism. And it's really brainwashing to what I find in most of the DEI policy that I've read, and the brainwashing that I believe it does to our children. It has no place in the minds of our children. As our nation's founded on Judeo-Christian values, it's important that we teach forgiveness. We teach, DEI teaches to blame, to shame people for their skin color. It instead of teaching equity and teaching inclusiveness, it causes more division. And I think it's important that we share with what Martin Luther King says. We never judge a person based on the color of their skin, but the character of their heart. And what I've found with the DEI policies is it becomes more racist than actually tearing down racism. And I would encourage you to not go along with the DEI policy, and just encourage those who are still considering that as I've been a person who's read a lot on both sides, I'm not just a person who reads on one side. I like to read what other people say about things and understand, even getting into books that I might not agree with. I find it to be not based on Judeo-Christian principles of forgiveness and moving forward, and it becomes a distraction to what Richmond Community Schools is here for, and is to teach and to empower our students. So just wanted to share my opinion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Austin's still having problems. I can go back to FaceTiming, and I don't have any trouble doing that.
Yes,
I just,
you could do
okay,
that.
I
Thank
just,
you.
it's gonna beep for a minute, so that's why I didn't want to interrupt anybody.
All right, we're finished.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith.
Thank you. Wait just a minute since we have some consent items, or we're trying to get our board member online.
Got you two there. And Austin, if you speak, it'll go into a microphone for the world to hear.
As long as everybody understands, he's not able to participate in the county president vote. Certainly no problem with him. We can give him technical access to the meeting, and
Okay.
at the pleasure of the chair, if there's comments that board members want to make,
Okay.
there's no reason he can't comment, but you don't have to have a roll call vote, for instance, and again, you have a quorum without him, so
Okay.
no issues.
Did you catch that, Austin? We'll not be able to vote in this format, but participate in the meeting is fine.
So we will move on to consent items. A motion for the approval of minutes.
So move.
I'll second.
I have a motion by member Zaleski and a second by member Stoltz. Is that a motion for approval of minutes only or minutes?
Check minutes.
Okay, good. Okay, that's fine. Questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Now I need a motion for the human resources report and the addenda.
I move to approve the human resources as presented with the addendum.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by member Stevens, a second by member Stoltz. Questions or comments?
I'm just gonna reiterate, I would appreciate if we could get the human resources in the board docs for not just us to view, but also the public to view in a timely manner. So it's there.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 5-0. Next, action items. Action item 6.01, the 2024-2025 MOU, Richmond Adult Education with Wayne County Jail.
Madam President, I'm moving to approve 6.01 action item 2024-2025 MOU Richmond Adult Education with Wayne County Jail as presented.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion by member Stevens, a second by member Stoltz. Questions and comments?
Yes, I just want to say thank you to Lori Fowler has been doing an excellent job with this program. I just talked to her this morning. She was commenting on one of the students that she taught this year, passed his test and is now in at IU East. So it was kind of a tearjerker to see what amazing stuff is going on, and that's some of the work that we're doing. So just wanted to say good job to her and yay for that program. So
Any other questions or
A
comments?
sentimental comment, though, it does let somebody realize when they have the educational opportunity in this environment that there is hope for them, and appreciate those who take advantage of that, continuing their education, because it does make a difference.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes 5-0. Next is action item 6.02, which is the NIET contract for K through 12 for the 24-25 school year.
I'm going to make a motion that we accept the recommendation to pass this.
Second.
Motion by member Stoltz, a second by member Stevens. Questions or comments?
Just, okay, go ahead.
Is this substantially the same as last year? I'm sorry to get that ahead of time. I thought it was, but I wanted to ask. Thank you.
And I guess my question, discussion, I believe in the past has been this would be phased out over time and making the processes and the concepts of NIET our own. What's the timeline as we move down the road of making it our own and phasing out the actual NIET contract?
Great question. I believe this year, as we approach year 3, corporation-wide with NIET, we'll be working to do just that and meeting with a representative from NIET who's been embedded in the camp with us these last 2 years. It's understood that this would be that year in which we are looking to, as you referenced, make it our own. And that was the intent from the beginning. And I know that our faculty, staff, administrators, as well as even students, have benefited tremendously from the instructional framework. So yes, this year we will continue to take those steps, things and bounds. Been very appreciative of their service, but most importantly, been appreciative of the faculty, staff, students' response to the program.
Any other questions or comments?
And the funding for it this year is from what funds?
These came from ESSER funds.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Vote passes 5-0. Next is action item 6.03, the request for approval for alcohol service from the Richmond Art Museum.
I move that we accept this request for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by member Stoltz, a second by member Zaleski. Questions or comments? I had just maybe this would be a good time to discuss Mr. Dingworth's request to change our policy slightly that we got. We got an email regarding that. His request was that proven organizations that are connected with us, like the RAM and RSO, not have to write that $500 check each time and return it because it's returnable. And so that kind of, from what I gathered from his email, having been through this process over the last year or so, he's recommending, here's some things I noticed that possibly could change in how we work with this policy. The other thing I think he recommended, with vendors like higher education places like Earlham and IU East, that we keep on file for the entire year. The documents that they send that are good for the year, that are annually, instead of them every time they request having to send the same document over. I don't know how that
I know.
impacts.
Yeah, the three of us were on the board when we originally started the alcohol use policy. And our original thought was to make it as tight as possible, right? Wasn't that kind of what we were
That still remains my thought.
and then kind of revisit or whatever. So
Here remains my thought, and I don't want to make an exception necessarily. I'll give you from my other professional viewpoint that we have much larger entities in this community who hold similar things. And when they do so, they must submit to the chief of police each time they do something, because alcohol will be served, a request that must be signed and approved. They may have 5 or 6 a year, but each time they do, they must submit to us a request that has to be signed. So I still stand with the existing policy that we have.
And I think, and I'm not on either side of that, just trying, but he is saying that he would still request and get our permission, but he's asking that they wouldn't have to send the annual insurance certificates and alcohol permits every single time that because they're good for a year. When they submit the request, they have to submit those every time.
Yeah, that's our policy. I think it's solid. I mean, I don't think we need to be in the business. That's not our primary objective, to make it easy to facilitate events or alcohol at events. And so I'm glad he's a partner, and I don't think it's an undue burden, and I'm fully supportive of the policy we have. And is the card still on the board, Fran?
I am.
Can Nicole vote on this or not, or where does that fall? Part of the conflict of interest. Nicole being a board member of RAM and voting as a trustee of the corporation.
Well, the motion on the floor is to request their proposal right here. I just thought maybe this was a good time for us to kind of discuss an email that we got.
But we're going to vote on their application.
Yes.
I don't know if Nicole can vote on that.
I don't know if you've abstained before or.
I typically have an abstain, should I?
If you have, that's fine. I don't know that you have.
I don't know what the right thing is.
Well, I think your affiliation is known. It's not secret. It's been consistent. Having said that, the law talks in terms of having a pecuniary interest, and I don't know that her financial well-being would be impacted whether you vote yay or nay of this. So technically, it's not a conflict of interest, but it is perhaps an appearance of one. And if she chooses to either recuse herself or abstain, either way, that's up to her.
My thing again on this are not necessarily to speak negatively of RAM or any of the functions that they have. I just don't want to set a precedent, when we have an existing policy, I don't want to set a precedent that somebody else, some other entity could 6 months from now come and say the same things that we did it for them. I would like to, unless we change the policy down the road, remain consistent with it. It's not like they're doing it every weekend anyway. It should not be that much of a limit. I'm not trying to take anything away from Mr. Dingworth because they're great partners with us in so many ways. I just want to be consistent with the policy.
And I will add, his email also says that he's a proud partner with RCS and he thanks us for all we do too. So I misrepresent parts of his email, but yeah.
I would just want to know from a legal perspective, do you see any issues with what he is?
Well, I'm not sure
suggesting?
exactly. I understand what he's asking because he's talking about people with whom we're, in quotes, I don't know, affiliated, and the citation, the references are to RSO and to RAN.
Right.
I guess, are you giving then him the discretion to determine if there's another close affiliation, or is it limited just to these two entities? I mean, I think the issue was, the process was put in for a very good reason, as noted by both Member Weber and Member Stevens, and that is, this isn't our main line, our main lane. We want to make sure that we are being reasonable in the access that we're giving to our facilities when alcohol is involved, because that does have a lot of other implications, not just liability wise, but I think there's a philosophical issue that people may or may not agree with, and that's fine. That's up to the board. That's policy. You decide where that weighs down. But I think that to change the policy on an ad hoc basis is ill-advised, and I think if you're going to change it, you probably need to get a little bit more core data before you undertake that, because you need to know what the implications might be for the change requested.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns?
Our vote, this motion is to approve
Just there. Right.
just the service,
Yes.
and not,
Right. Yes.
which is.
And I don't think we'll have a vote, but I think it was good we had an open conversation regarding that. Good. So there is a motion on the floor by Member Stoltz and a second by Member Zaleski. Any other questions or comments about this request? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Vote passes 5-0. Next on the action items, 6.04 appointments. And this is a motion to approve the following recommendations as presented, that Ms. Melissa Swafford will become Director of Finance and be appointed the school treasurer. I said that wrong, sorry. She is the Director of Finance, and be appointed school treasurer for Richmond Community Schools from July 10th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024, and that Ms. Karen Scout be appointed deputy treasurer for Richmond Community Schools for the period of July 10th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024.
I move to approve 6.04, 6.04, the appointments as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Member Stevens, a second by Member Stoltz. Questions and comments?
I understand, we have current appointment with Ms. Swafford as deputy treasurer without a treasurer, essentially, currently. And we've asked for the organizational chart, and still pending that. I'll be voting no until that information is provided.
Any other questions or comments?
Sure. I'll be voting in favor of it. However, I do agree with Member Zaleski. I think it's going to be as soon as we can. I know it's been asked, and I know that things have been fluid here and for the last couple of months. But as soon as we can, for our benefit as well as for the community benefit, have that structured, by better expression, chain of command, and that we're well aware of.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Vote passes 4-1. Do I need to do a roll call on that, Ron?
No.
Okay, thank you. Next item, action item 6.05, the 24-25 Communities and Schools MOU.
One point, just to back up, the board docs does not agree. So I don't know what we actually voted on the dates for the deputy treasurer. The actual appointment letter that he clicked on ends June 30th, 2024. So I don't know.
I don't know what you're looking at saying.
So the board docs list a term through the December of this month or this year, but then when you click on the actual document, they're not the same. So I don't know what one has precedent.
Well, I think you read the.
But you didn't read dates, did you?
I did.
Okay.
She did read dates, I believe.
Yes, I did.
I noticed, at least on an early draft I saw, there was one that was retroactive. You had it from like July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2024, which was going to be a little hard for me to figure out how it was going to work that way. But I think that was corrected. But you did read dates, as
I did.
That's, I mean,
Okay.
if that's holds,
We'll correct that error.
except for interpretation, then it's,
Thanks for making sure that, John.
that's me.
Okay, so we are up to, I'm looking for a motion for the Communities and Schools MOU.
I move that we accept the 2024-2025 Communities and Schools MOU.
Second.
I have a motion by member Stoltz, a second by member Stevens. Questions or comments?
I did have a question. Do we have a sense of what next year looks like? Do we plan this to be continual, or are we phasing something different? Do we have any thoughts on that?
With regard to communities and schools,
Yes.
our partnership, we are looking to continue to expand and shrink the partners, community and schools. Of course, as we always have done, we'll continue to do. We'll review, revise, review, reflect, and if necessary, make particular revisions. But we know that communities and schools are committed to providing services to our faculty, staff, students, our stakeholders. We have, as Member Stevens mentioned, some fluid transitions within our leadership team, and we have some administrative protocols that will be approaching a little differently this year to help communities and schools meet the mission and vision that they have had for many years. And so, yes, we truly look forward, depending upon the hope that's before us, to working with our partners, communities and schools.
I'm glad that I was happy to see that the MOU and that we've come together to continue the services. We've heard from a lot of teachers and parents and family members who have benefited from their services. Again,
Just tonight.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay, vote passes 5-0. Action item 6.06, the Savas Science Adoption.
I move to approve 6.06, 6.06, it's a lot of science adoption as presented.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by member Stevens, a second by member Stoltz. Questions and comments?
Yeah, I had a question. It was hard to follow the email thread. It seemed like the feedback back to the teachers that cycle might not have been complete. That they were consulted, decisions were made, and then they were not consulted again. I mean, did that happen that way, or what was the? I mean, I like when the teachers come up and talk about how they were so involved in curriculum ideas, and this one didn't seem to quite happen that way. So maybe a little explanation of how the process worked.
And of what has been shared with me, and of what I understand from one of our previous cabinet members, and of what I shared in the correspondence of the material that was passed on, is that yes, initially there was a committee that was established with faculty, staff, administrators, others to look at and review textbook adoptions with regard to science curriculum. Because the state there was challenges with the funding mechanisms from the state, it was paused as a result. Science teachers throughout the corporation then had to utilize supplemental materials and other materials they had to exhaust. And with this, as it was discovered, with monies, ESSER monies that became available, there would be a need to encumber such monies. There was an option to revisit the conversation with a limited budget per se of that revisiting. To your point, however, I will share. I believe you are correct there. Uh, in the moment, the approach could have played out differently. However, with the timeline that was in front of us and the decisions that had to be arrived at, the surplus curriculum instruction, although not uh, supported as or not found to be the very best curriculum, it was the fiscally responsible curriculum and one that put forward. And what it does now, depending upon the approval of the board, it allows our K-8 curriculum within the science, subject of science, to be politically aligned, just as we have aligned our methods and English St. George, which hasn't been done for some time. And most importantly, it provides our educators with materials that previously they had not had. I understand of what was shared with me that there are challenges with the autonomy that our educators may have with the curriculum instruction in and of itself. However, I know Dennis Middle School, what has been shared, found success with Savas, with the fact that we do have inexperienced, not as seasoned educators there in that facility. And so with this, we are looking to utilize funding that's available and most importantly, provide our faculty, staff, and our students with something we haven't had for the last 2 years. That fits our budget.
Thank you. I will be voting on this. I will be voting for this. However, I also was very concerned, that our science teachers had, stated that they did not feel like they were a part of this decision. I understand that we have a timeline, we've got a budget, we have things that are constraining this decision, and that's why I'm going to be voting for it, is that we had extenuating circumstances, so to speak, and I do love the alignment component, but in the future, I would like to make every effort to make sure that our science teachers are a part of that decision. So,
and yes, I think as Member Weber mentioned, I think the challenge was the follow through initially with the committee. As I understood it, there was a lot of feedback, input, participation, engagement when the state funding mechanisms were not as solid. Things were posed. I don't think we're immune to that here in the state.
I get that, yeah.
Yes, but
I
yes,
just
following
want to
up,
say,
yeah,
our teachers are our lifeblood, so we need to make sure that they are in lockstep.
And we know that if the curriculum doesn't have a buy-in, then it's not going to be successful. So what's the training plan? Or what are we going to do to get buy-in and help teachers use the material? I guess they've been using supplemental kind of thing, and then now we'll be using this. So is there a plan for training?
Yes, ma'am. There is several phases that will be put into motion. I believe I shared that. I'll share that publicly. Give respondents, but yes, there is a plan that has a timeline.
Yeah, you would share that with the board, but
yes, but I'll share that publicly.
Yeah, that would be great.
After that meeting. Yeah, absolutely.
Other questions or comments?
I just have concern. It was a surprise to us to see this on the agenda. I've not heard anything about it, and then to see it quote for $300,000 or nearly $300,000 with little buildup is quite a surprise. And I have a lot of concerns to buy into the teachers. I think we're less than a month away from day one.
But from what I understand is we will lose that ESSER money though if we're not purchasing this. And like our timeline is strict and those monies will go away. That's how I understood it.
That's the interest.
Okay.
And if we don't commit to this, then there won't be a science curriculum. Is that what I'm hearing? Or we can't, there's others we can commit to, but we can't afford them. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, if the Richmond board was to not for this recommendation, then we would more than likely at this juncture not have a science level for 5 instance. This option allows us to do something different than we've done the last 2 years.
This is a one-year quote with ongoing being how much?
It's a 5-year.
5 year.
Because it typically is.
Oh, absolutely.
Typically, adoption is for a 6-year cycle. The state used to have cycles of textbook adoption, so this was we were outside the cycle the way I understand it, and so Dennis adopted it in the cycle. So the rest of the schools would be on a 5 year, so that all K through 8 was on the same adoption cycle. So then after that 5 years, we'll come back to the table with the teachers, evaluate how the syllabus was, see what the other products are there, and then go through the process to get into research to re-adopt. The latest, the greatest, typically publishers will do a new edition, the year of the adoption. So that's typically how that's handled. So the price tag are steep these days. I can speak as a former it's what used to be a $50,000 or $60,000 adoption is now $120,000 adoption. So prices are not just a price means well. The cost nowadays is just grasping a lot.
I believe the curriculum that was more favorable was $1 million close to $1 million proper.
I just did that a couple of years ago. The math adoption program was expecting a 60,000 and came in at 120. So typically you work with that's where the other rush comes in, is you work with your salesperson to say, okay, how can we scale this back? What can we do? How much is the professional development? What can we so professional development isn't part of that quote, it is built into that. So that is we built it to pay for that.
So this is for 5 years?
The way I read it,
In theory, if we pass it.
Yeah.
However, without the buy-in, without build-up as is expressed, if after a year or during this year we find out that it is not as successful as we would wish, what are the options at that point? Because whether it may be cost saving on July the 10th, but come May the 1st, if it has not been successful, all we've done is save money, but we've thrown away a year of opportunity.
I think it was
If you could
typically.
put your microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
We don't have those in the camera. Typically what would happen is what the teachers have been doing the past couple of years is supplementing and building curriculum for themselves. What would happen is you would have grade level discussions or department discussions at the test and Dennis, for example, to find the weaknesses in that curriculum, and then the principals or myself would find other monies or grant dollars to help supplement the weaknesses in that curriculum to make sure that the kids get the full scope. Without it, you don't have a framework or a basic foundation of science, which I think is what the biggest concern was. For them to kind of push this to really take a look at science, because teachers were having to completely embed that, and so you can get this, what Charles teachers are doing for science could be completely different. What Vail teachers are doing for science, which is obviously completely different. What Dennis is doing in science already happened in this curriculum. So I meet with Dennis's principal on Thursday to kind of find out what she would think about it, how much supplementing they have had to do. Those would be the kind of the conversations to have as far as when he's talking vertical alignment, to be able to find out where are those weaknesses that we've seen in the 7th and 8th grade, and help trickle that down a little bit to prepare those teachers for any pitfalls that might be part of that curriculum. So if that makes sense.
Any other questions or comments? I feel like I should take a minute too, which I did not after Human Resources, and I apologize, to introduce Mr. Pritchard, who is now our new Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education. So
Thank you very much.
it came out the fact, but we were
Thrilled to
happy.
be here. So
Thank you for your input this evening. We're excited to have you here. I apologize for not recognizing that earlier.
6 days on the job, I can't contribute much. But
Okay.
I feel like I can. So,
Sorry, who's that other guy across the
Yeah.
there's been no running.
gold plaque?
Any other questions or comments regarding the Savas science adoption? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Nay. Vote passes 5-0. Next, we have our preview of our upcoming meetings and events. Is that with you?
Actually, it stays with you, but yeah,
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Our next meeting will be July 24th with a 5:30 work session in the old boardroom, and it will be followed with a business meeting at 6:30 in our current normal boardroom. Next, highlights and discussions. We have a board discussions.
It's that time of the year, summer, and down the street, I believe there are a group of people who are getting prepared for music. So let's keep that in mind as well, and always be supportive of this. Yeah.
August 2nd, right? Band Day. State Fair Band Day.
I have a couple of notes here. Summer school is complete, and I wanted to thank teachers, administrators, paras, families, students. So I got to visit once, administrators, we have one here, but thank you for working at our summer school and helping our students continue to grow over the summer. And I know I've seen, heard from teachers who are going through part of the wit and wisdom training, along with other teachers. And there's so much training, you know, we think about teachers having the academic year of when they're working, but really it's all year long. And we have so many teachers who are in staff who are spending part of their summer with further education and further learning, and really appreciate that. So, few other items. Tonight we have an executive session after to finalize Dr. Wright's superintendent evaluation. That process began after our last meeting, and that continues. This is the normal time of the year that we do that, so I'm gonna just publicly say that. Also, Mr. Mops is not here, HR, but the CuraLink healthcare that he introduced for our staff and teachers. Did we talked about that publicly? Okay. I just thought it was great. So I will say that it includes coaching and counseling and financial issues and therapy. Any of our staff may, you know, texting therapy, just so many different options that trying to reach more staff in many different ways to give more opportunities.
And limited free legal services.
Oh, limited free legal services. You should be advertising that, Ron.
They're not from me.
Really, Ron? Is that an offer?
But it's a
You've
great
already
opportunity.
provided some tonight.
And I think something fantastic for
It's a very thorough.
staff. And other board discussion.
I did reach out to a couple of county commissioners the 2nd of July concerning the G Street Bridge, and they said it is still projected and scheduled to be open for the start of school. So hopefully,
Could I follow up on that, please?
Yeah.
I've been meaning to, I just didn't have this discussion in front of everybody, I'd rather have a piece adapted. For a lot of reasons, that project is going to have a significant cost overrun. It's the nature of the bridge, and then there were certain conditions as to the underlying structures that could not be ascertained until you got in there, and it's been worse than they thought. One of the design components that was originally considered is a protective fence over the each side of the bridge. The position of the commissioners is they do not feel that's a good expenditure of monies given where the time that they're facing right now with the overall shortfall in funding from the state for all bridges, and they're told not to expect any improvement till 2030. So that was originally, I think, suggested at least by some contact with RCS. And so I think they would be interested in knowing, what your feeling is about the vitality of that piece of the project. And if you really feel like it's integral to our interest, our RCS, whether there's the ability to contribute to offset the cost of that incrementally around $243,000.
Is that for the
I'm the messenger, don't shoot.
That's for the purpose of adding that safety component to it.
We know how many people have lost their lives off that bridge.
I can tell you how many people I negotiated off of.
The data showed, and I'm quoting it because I didn't do it, but from Officer Benedict, I went back and researched it. I don't know exactly the period. I think it's the last 10 years, two attempts. Neither of whom, well, there were two, neither of whom were students. There are issues with the bridge as far as, it's just a conduit that can have bottlenecks and issues with people. So Aaron's probably in a better position to speak to that.
Well, I can see. The reason why I park my car back here in most meetings is because, especially during the COVID year, there were at least 4 meetings between May and August of that year that got called out because of people on bridges. Specifically as a negotiator, I've been on that bridge probably at least 10 times in the last 15 years, at least, or less than that, in regards to individuals who are going through severe mental and emotional stress. That effort is made a little bit more difficult if there were that safety component added to the bridge. Where there's a will, there's a way. Unfortunately, and I don't mean to be callous about that, but when you add additional barrier, it may be a deterrent.
It may, but it also could be a stimulus to find a way around that deterrent. Again,
like I said, Ron,
we researched it too, and it's
where there's a will, there's a way. And I don't mean to be callous because that gets into the critical mental, emotional state of minds of individuals. But yeah.
Without knowing the circumstance, I can remember a couple incidents over the years, and I think anytime there's a death in that close distance to a school, it's very traumatic. And so I don't know what our position was, but I would guess that anything we can do to make that bridge less attractive for people, because even when it's shut down for an incident, it's a big deal, and kids worry and they talk, and $240,000 sounds pretty cheap to me. So I'm surprised the commissioners would make that decision.
Presenting the issue, not asking for any type of commitment or response, but I think you can expect a more formal contact coming from the commissioners.
Now, the city can pay for that themselves, right, without the school? If they have the money.
County.
No,
Or
the
county, sorry.
county. They could. I'm telling you, I don't think that is going to be given the overall scope of the project and the complications that have already been identified for cost overruns, and the fact that we're in a delayed cycle with all bridges, and the resulting unbelievable inflation in cost, and the inability of the state to fund more than what they're not making their matches, and these are matching funds, and they're not making their matches. So we're looking at significant shortfalls at the county level.
I hear that money, and that sounds like a lot of money to me, because that sounds like money that could have been put toward a science adoption, maybe.
But we're not paying, it's not school money.
Oh, I thought
They're going to be asking.
he's saying they're gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
I think they
asking for
didn't want to just basically
They
dismiss it.
just wanted.
When they,
we were
at least
They're
I
saying,
understood it.
we're not gonna do this, do you wanna do it?
Right, do you want to pay?
That I think is the message.
Right.
And I certainly appreciate
That's not our lane, though. That's kind of ridiculous.
I understand and appreciate.
Well, I think the reason it's your lane, or at least they see it as your lane, is that
We have interest.
it was input from the school corporation that caused that to be a sign alternate in designing the bridge.
And the bridge is already 1.2 million over budget.
Thanks for bringing the message.
Well, the good news is we got it done in time so that we didn't displace the bats before they came to this place.
Thanks for Liberty Avenue. When does that open? Is it still closed? Liberty Avenue, is it still closed?
It is.
What is the status? It's been closed for 6 months.
We haven't received information on that. We received a lot of information on closing of roads because of transportation, but we haven't received anything on Liberty Avenue. I don't have that status.
That's not bad.
Any other discussion or discussion? Great. We are ready for the bell ringer.
We will be revisited by Mrs. Bridget Hazelbeck, Director of Student Support Services and Communication. Mrs. Hazelbeck has been skateboarding a little bit, and so she's coming up with a little apparatus there.
Little sore, little sore. I just wanted to thank Mrs. Scalp and her team for the maintenance department. There are so many projects going on the district right now. So I think our bell ringers are a lot of our Warner maintenance employees, even our subcontractors. They're doing all the work. If you go around even to some of our buildings, Fairview, you see the roof at the high school. I mean, multiple projects going around, and the grounds are looking great. So I appreciate that they sprayed for weeds and everything, and they did that before our back to school night. So I think I think Mrs. Scout's leadership helping planning those events and getting those events happening, and not being very proactive in those. It's been very helpful for our district. So I just wanted to thank her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Meeting adjourned.
Ron, I understand. It's a very interesting predicament. That first of all, finding out it going over budget because of